What's going on? Welcome to Texans Junkies, our first episode. I'm Mark. This is Nathan, and my camera's not really focusing for some reason, but that's okay. We're going to talk about Dalton Schultz re-signing, breaking news, top free agents. Each of us made a list of 5 free agents who we'd like to sign that already are not on the Texans, and then some comments from Colin Cowherd at the very end of the show. We just heard Dalton Schultz re-sign with the Texans, 3 years, $36 million, 23.5 guaranteed. So, Nathan, do you think this was a good deal?
I do think it was a good deal. I think the tight end position's a little weak on the Texans. We have Brevin Jordan, who we saw do pretty well last year. He had a good game against Cleveland, but he's not Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz is he's reliable. CJ Stroud has made it very known that he wants him back, and Caserio got the deal done, and I like the deal. I think 33 years, $36 million, 23.5 guaranteed is a really good deal. I do think they're going to draft a replacement for him. I do think they're going to do that maybe in the 5th or 6th round. Oh, they don't have a 6th round pick, but probably the 5th. In the 5th,
I think we have like 3 7ths or something, maybe somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I feel like ever since Dalton came, we've just had such a weak tight end position for years. Like we had like CJ Fedorowicz, and I feel like after that, even though he wasn't that great after that, it was just like a black hole on the team. So definitely good to have him. I feel like was it the Browns when Brevin Jordan had that 80-yard touchdown?
Yeah, he caught it on the sideline, broke a tackle, and he was gone.
When that happened, I feel like after that, everyone was like, we don't need Schultz anymore. Like Brevin Jordan's like the torch has been passed. And I'm like, dude, like it was a great play, but it was a play that a tight end should make at that point. Like that was I don't want to say not a difficult play because it's an NFL play, but I feel like after that, everyone was like Brevin Jordan's tight end 1 now. And it's just like, no, dude, like Dalton Schultz is a model of consistency, and he's going to be good for the Texans
right
for a while. So that just broke. I guess the Texans aren't going to use their franchise tag. Maybe they will still, but I doubt it. Possibly a hometown deal. Possibly a hometown deal for what's his name? Edge rusher. I'm blanking right now.
Grenard.
Yeah, Grenard. Thanks. So we'll see. But we're going to talk about each of our top 5 free agents who already aren't on the Texans. So I'm going to start with mine. We kind of did a list of our 5 favorites. It's not necessarily the best or like necessarily the most talented, but just people we'd like to see in positions that we need help in. So I'm going to start with an honorable mention, actually, not previously told to Nathan. I'm going to start with DeAndre Swift. A lot of people are hating on Swift, and I just feel like he is I think he's a legit running back. Like with Detroit and Philadelphia, I thought he was a dog, but I have another running back on this list that I like more anyway. So I'll go to number 5 right now. My number 5 is DJ Reader, and I just think personally, what left the Texans on a downward spiral in the late 2010s. It wasn't even when DeAndre Hopkins left or, when J.J. Watt was injury prone. I think it was when DJ Reader left. Our run defense just disappeared, basically. Like we were the worst run defense team for 2 or 3 years in a row. And DJ Reader is not that guy who's going to have sexy stats to like fill up the sheet, but he's a dude who will stuff runners and really like make his presence felt inside the line of scrimmage. So what do you think, Nathan? Because he's probably pretty high. I just feel like for the deal we could get him on, maybe like $12 million, something like that. I feel like that's not a bad play. I'd like to see him back in Houston.
Yeah, I agree. I think like D'Amico said, like over and over and over again, it's one in the trenches. His D-line is D'Amico's biggest concern right now. He made that clear after the Ravens game. We need D-line help, and it's true. Malik Collins has played really well. So does Sheldon Rankins. But if you want to be a legitimate playoff contender or Super Bowl contender at that, because we are a playoff contender, but if we want to be a championship team, we need to get guys that'll make a huge difference, guys that, DJ Reader's 29 years old. So is, a guy that we're going to talk about later.
That's still pretty young.
Yeah, it is young. And, he had a pretty good year last year. He played in 14 games, which is good. Playing 14 games and having 30 tackles and a sack, like you said, he's not going to have the sexiest stats. He had
Right.
a sack,
Yeah.
but he was a big part of the Cincinnati Bengals defense, and I think I would like to see him come back home for sure.
Yeah, and it should be mentioned, you can already see on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, but he did suffer a torn quad that ended his season in Week 15 last year. He's actually already come back from a torn quad injury. I think it was in his other leg too in 2020. So I saw some comments about it, how he was saying like it's tough. Like you do have that moment that you're thinking like maybe I should retire, but he's going to rehab from it. I think it said like 6 to 8 month timetable, so he would be ready theoretically by week 1. So something to think about. Moving on to number 4 for me, Azeez Al-Shaair. I would love to poach someone from a division rival too. I think he was sort of a bright spot on a Titans team that was unbelievably frustrating. I don't follow the Titans subreddit, but I view it sometimes, and they're like a tortured fan base right now. It's terrible. But basically, top 5, 5th in the NFL in total tackles, 163, which is a fantastic number. I just think that we have some linebackers that are probably going to depart. Obviously, Christian Harris made it known as the season went on that he's a dude who's going to be a mainstay in our linebacker core. He was unstoppable. He's that guy who, when you're playing zone and like a one-on-one man, if the other team has a stud, like you're putting Christian Harris on the running back or the tight end who's a stud. So like we'll see if To'o shines. I don't think we're going to retain. I'm blanking again. What's his name? Denzel Perryman. Thanks, from the Raiders. I think he was fine, but or Cashman for that matter. I think Cashman's going to test free agency and probably get a huge deal somewhere. So could be a good pickup. He stuffs the stat sheet. He's the opposite of DJ Reader. So, all right, let's go to number 3.
Yeah, and real quick,
yeah,
Azeez Al-Shaair, in case people don't know, was with DeMeco Ryans in San Francisco from 2019 to 2022, and he's a key part of the Titans defense. And having a guy like him, 234, 6 feet tall, having a guy like him come in and take the spot of a Blake Cashman or a Denzel Perryman. Him and Denzel aren't going to play the same, but I can definitely see like him playing the same as like a Blake Cashman, because I do think Blake Cashman will go somewhere else. I don't want to say guarantee, but
I feel like
Houston.
Yeah, there's a reason why we haven't been hearing much buzz about Cashman, like working on a new deal with Houston. I think he wants to test free agency because he was like for a while he was number 1 PFF graded linebacker last year. So I mean he's really good. I'd like to keep him on a hometown deal, but we have a lot of people we need to pay. So, but yeah, all right. Number 3, defensive tackle. My next 2 are going to be defensive tackles because I strongly believe. I mean, 3 of my 5 are. I already said DJ Reader, but I think that. Getting a stud defensive tackle is going to be crucial for us. I'd like to address it in the draft, but this list is as is. Like I'm not going to assume that we're going to get one because you never know. Like Caserio likes pulling those draft day shockers. We could see something happen. But Wilkins, they already said in Miami that they're not going to give him the tag. So he's just a guy. John Hickman from Locked On Texans, he always says the best kind of ability is availability, and this is a dude who stays on the field and gets solid numbers. So I think he could really be a home wrecker for opponents running games and quarterbacks. What do you think?
Yeah. I like Christian Wilkins. He's 28, so he's not that much younger than DJ Reader. And his market value, according to Spot Rack, is about $20 million a year.
Yeah, that's the one downside.
Hefty price, especially for a guy who, he's still young. Like, he was only drafted a couple years ago, 2019 draft pick. He's 28 years old, but $20 million a year for this team. And yes, the salary cap got adjusted. We got 13% more than, what was it, $30 million or something?
Yeah, it was like
that.
30 point something $1 million more.
Yeah, so but every team got that. And that's why you'll see before that happened, guys were wanting 12 million. Now they're going to want 17 million. I was actually watching Aaron Wilson with KPRC, and he was saying that there is going to be like a little bit of interest on these contracts since the salary cap got adjusted. Players are going to want $3 to $4 million more than what they were going to ask for prior.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can have an opinion on what you want. I think, you know, Christian Wilkins is a guy that if we did pay him that amount of money, even if it was 3 years or if it was a 4-year, 80 million, which is what he's projected to get, I mean, I wouldn't mind. I mean, he's a game changer, especially on our D line with Malik Collins, and especially if we go after a guy in the first round like a Byron Murphy, who by the way ran a 4.8.
Dude's a beast. Yeah, he's legit. I liked what you were saying earlier. You were saying earlier, like when I was talking about DJ Reader, that like, you know, Malik Collins is good, but he's got 1 year left, and like Sheldon Rankins is good, but I feel like our defensive tackle position, like we have a lot of like good players. We need great players if we're going to take that next step. So, yeah, that was kind of my logic. I think Christian Wilkins is a great player. I agree with you though. There's a reason why Miami doesn't want to retain him. It's because he's going to be expensive. Like those defensive linemen cost so much if you want a good one. So, if we address it in the draft, cool. If we got Christian Wilkins, Incasario, I trust. Like that, all the better. So, so yeah. And then number 2, so the news just broke that Madubuike actually got franchise tagged. But you know what? My list was already screwed up anyway from breaking news all day today. So number 2, Justin Madubuike, 13 sacks as a defensive tackle is unreal. Like that's those are crazy numbers. I don't know the last time I saw a true interior lineman get 13 sacks. He's legit. There's a reason why the Ravens are keeping him. It's because you don't let talent walk, and he's the definition of young talent. So,
for sure.
I don't know how much more there is to say, or if he's on your list, but dude's a beast. So,
yeah, not much to talk about. There's nothing we can say that'll. He got franchise tag. He's not going to be on the market. I would have loved to see him come home. He's from Dallas. He's he's a Texas guy. He went to A&M, which is only 2 hours away from Houston.
Hour and a half, 2 hours. Mm-hmm.
It would have been nice to see him come home.
It depends. If you're from Cyprus, A&M's an hour away. If you're from Friendswood or League City, it's 3 hours away. So you know.
Right.
Okay. Number 1. So it is Saquon Barkley. Again, I made this list earlier. My number 1 was Antoine Winfield, and he got franchise tagged. And then it was Josh Allen, and he got franchise tagged. So now it's Saquon, who was originally my number 3. I had to move everyone up. It was a pain, but Saquon Barkley, it just makes sense. Like when you have a quarterback on their rookie deal, you have money to spend like this. Running back is not an expensive position. You go and get the best running back available. I would be okay with us drafting one too, but when a guy like Saquon hits the market, that doesn't happen often. Like this is a crazy strong running back free agent group. If we end up with Josh Jacobs or DeAndre Swift or Eckler's all right, but any of those guys, like awesome. Like I'm gonna be super happy. But Saquon Barkley, number 2 pick, 5 years ago, the dude is a beast. Like he's averaging 4 yards a rush behind a New York Giants offensive line that's capable at best. So I think behind our offensive line, after them being together for another year or 2 and getting Titus Howard back, I think it's a recipe for success. So
I agree.
Yeah. I don't know where Saquon is on your list. I'm assuming he's on your list. So
he is on my list, and
cool.
That's what we'll get into that right now.
Let's see it.
My 5 free agents. So at number 5 is Justin Madubuike. He's franchise tagged. Not much to talk about. He was just franchise tagged not too long ago. I think the news broke like a couple hours ago. So
I thought it was as we started recording. Maybe it was when we were setting up, but yeah.
Yeah, it was about 2 hours ago, an hour ago, something like that. But it's okay. We don't have to get into it too much. That would have been a great pickup. By the way, I would have been very happy paying $20 to $25 million for Justin Madubuike. He's a beast. An interior D lineman having 12.5 sacks is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So, that's Chris Jones numbers. He's one of the best in the league. Justin Madubuike is going to be a scary, scary guy for the next couple years.
Yeah,
for sure.
There's a reason why Chris Jones was on my list. He'd be 10 million more than this guy, and I think this guy's
Right.
got way more upside. So yeah.
Right. Okay. So now that he's off the list, my number 4 is going to be Quandre Diggs. As we all know, as Texans fans, our secondary is
good.
It's pretty bad. I mean, it's not good. We have
all right.
Jimmy Ward, who couldn't stay healthy this year. Jalen Petrie didn't look like he belonged in coverage. And we've talked about this plenty of times where we think that his position will be changed this year. Which means you're going to need 2 new safeties. One, you're going to need a free safety. You're going to need a strong safety. Jimmy Ward, he may come back. I would personally like to release him. It'll free up about $8 million. I would also like to release Robert Woods. We don't have to give him that too much, but it'll free up about $12 million, which is really good for us, especially for guys who didn't make too much of an impact this year. I also heard today that we're looking at bringing Noah Brown back. I don't know. That's another guy where it's like, okay, whatever.
I mean, I don't want to.
He had a couple good games for sure.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. So, anyways, but Quandre Diggs, so he is about 30 years old. But look, he played 17 games last year. Played the whole year. He had 95 tackles and 1 interception. Now, don't get me wrong, the Seahawks are they're kind of a weird team because it's like they're good, but then they didn't make the playoffs and they had a lot of stuff wrong. I do think
it's the Geno Smith ceiling.
Yeah, we've also been linked to Wagner, by the way. I don't know if you saw that. He's also, I believe, on the wrong side of 30, right? I mean, he's old, dude. He's
been productive though. He's a great linebacker, but he's
old. For sure. But Quandre Diggs is my number 4 pick only because we need safeties, and I do think him. He's pretty cheap. Micah Hyde's also on the market. He's going to be a little bit more expensive, so I'm going to take Quandre Diggs here. I think he'll be a good piece to add.
Yeah, good value pick. I like it. I didn't address safety, so that's a good pick. I think we'll probably address it in the draft too. We'll see.
Right, I do. I think so too. So this is the guy that, I mean, can you even go wrong with this guy? Like, Chris Jones is a beast. The dude had 10.5 sacks this year. He sat out a couple of games because of his contract situation. They ended up getting that figured out, and look what happened. They got that contract situation figured out, and their defense went completely up from there. He's a difference maker on their defense. He's going to be a difference maker on any defense.
Yeah, but dude, their defense carried the Chiefs. I didn't know he sat out any games, though. I thought they got that contract situation sorted out beforehand. Did he sit out?
No, it was. I believe he played. He didn't play every game. In the regular season he played 16 games.
Okay.
So he had 1 game. That he didn't play. So here's the downside of this situation. He's 29 years old, same thing as DJ Reader. But he's also about $16 million more than DJ Reader is. Spot Rack has his market value at $28.4 million a year. Their projected contract is a 3-year, $85.5 million a year deal. Mark, I want to ask you this: if you woke up tomorrow, or whenever free agency opens up and saw that Caserio made a deal for this much money, I mean, how did that make you feel? Because we're talking about Chris Jones here. We're talking about a staple on a defense that, in a positional need that we're in desperate need of.
Yeah, no, I'd be really excited if I saw that we signed Chris Jones. I would immediately be happy, and then I would, in a panic, look at how much he costs, because I think he's going to be upwards of 30 million. Like, I think the dude, he's not like he did last year. He's not afraid to sit out if he thinks he deserves more money. I think the Chiefs probably do get him back, but we'll see. Like, I'm always going to be happy if we're getting talent, unless it's David Johnson in exchange for DeAndre Hopkins. But yeah, if we sign Chris Jones, I would be happy. I would be a little worried at how much it costs, and I would be concerned that maybe it wouldn't be the best move for the team. But he would obviously make us better at that position. Like, no questions asked. Like just picturing Chris Jones next to Will Anderson. I mean, that's like a fever dream. So
right.
Yeah, it'd be a good one.
I also have a question for you too that I want to hear your opinion on. So when it comes to people who say the Texans should spend, the Texans should use their money, CJ Stroud's on a rookie deal, you still have him for 5 more seasons. And by the way, whenever they give him his extension, that money won't kick in until his rookie deal's over with. So after the first 5 years, 4 more years now since last season ended. But in 3 years, when they get his extension done, the money won't kick in until the 4th year, after that 4th year. So what is your take on people saying we should spend now since we have CJ and Tank and, Will Anderson on these rookie deals?
Well, we've talked about how the amount of cap space that we have is misleading because we have over 30 free agents. So we're going to have to sign them. We're going to have to retain a lot of people. We're going to have to spend a lot of the cap money on our own players. I agree with it though, for a lot of reasons. I mean, it is true. Like the most important piece of the puzzle is solved with CJ Stroud. I just think that you need to spend within reason. That's why I'm saying spend on Saquon. Like sign top tier talent at a reasonable price when you can. If we were to spend money on Chris Jones, like now would be the time to do it. But for people who are saying just throw a lot of money right now because our window is like right now, I think our window is a long time. Like I think we're setting the foundation. I'd rather get foundational pieces right now and be a contender for years to come than treat this as a win now situation.
Right. No, I totally agree. I think I do kind of want to see us spend a little bit of money. Unfortunately, I don't know if I see Caserio spending money on Saquon. I've heard people say that it might be a combo of Singletary and maybe a Swift, or some sort of duo like that. But even during the draft combine, Caserio and D'Amico praised Devin Singletary, Motor.
Yeah, they did.
They praised him. So,
and Steven Nelson.
I see Motor coming back, and I would like to see it. By the way, guys, Devin Singletary had a great year when you look at his numbers. First of all, he didn't even play how many games was it?
Like how many games did he start?
Yeah, because he wasn't starting at first.
Yeah, I feel like he switched at like week 5 or something.
Right. So they had him at, I believe he had a little.
Like total yards?
Yeah. So
it was just under 1,000 for rushing yards.
Just under 1,000 yards.
I mean, the dude was on pace to be top 3 in rushing.
Right. So last year, and he is a smaller guy. He's 5'7", 200 pounds, but we saw that didn't matter to him. He was getting open, finding the holes, something Damian couldn't do. He had 900 yards on the ground. Okay. He had 200 yards receiving. And this is a guy who played all 17 games, but didn't start all of them. Even if it was week 5, we're talking about a guy, he was averaging 4.2 yards a carry. Longest run was 24 yards. I think it would have been longer.
Wow, that's not very long.
I think it would have been longer if Mechie didn't get that hold. Remember that?
Oh yeah, I do remember that. That was crushing. But
yeah. He also had 4 touchdowns. So like when people say like, oh, we need a Saquon, like I also believe that we need Saquon, but only for the reason that that's a talent you just don't see every day, like you said.
Yeah.
And I would like to have him, and I would like to have Motor back. But this guy almost had 1,000 yards rushing. Didn't even start like a lot of games. Had 4 touchdowns, 200 yards receiving. Like, I mean,
the scheme.
The Motor coming back.
He's talented. The scheme just has to work. Like, obviously, it didn't work for Dameon Pierce. Right. Hopefully, we can make adjustments. But yeah, I think he's super talented. Still got a ton in the tank, but the scheme's just not working. So
right,
we'll see.
Yeah. So now we're gonna move on to a guy that I don't know. Me and Mark haven't talked about this guy. So it's Chase Young. So here's my thing with Chase Young. I've seen a lot of people say that he's going to be the new Jadeveon Clowney. He's not going to get multi-year deals, which I actually see. I can see that happening. But they can be difference makers coming off the edge. Jadeveon Clowney had a great year this year. He's always getting 1-2 year deals. You know, he's with Cleveland, with Baltimore. I don't remember. Did he go to Cleveland after he left us?
Yeah, I think he
Did
went
he?
straight to Cleveland. I can look
Yeah.
that up real quick.
So Chase Young is 6'5", 265. First of all, you can't teach size. That's just a fact. So he is, and he obviously was a top draft pick for a reason. He won Defensive Rookie of the Year. Injuries kind of riddled his career a little. But this year, if you look at this year, he played with Washington for 7 games. He played with San Fran for 9 in the regular season. This isn't including playoffs. This year alone, he had 23 total tackles. He also had 7.5 sacks. Okay. That is somebody who can make a difference, and also a guy who probably won't cost near as much as a Jonathan Grenard, because here's my thing with Grenard. I like him. You know, he's been with us for a while. I just don't think that having this one breakout, like I think you can agree with me. This is like one. He's had a year that was really good, but 12.5 sacks and all these tackles, and he also missed 2 games. This is his first year of truly, you know, this is his contract year. And I don't believe in giving a guy a crazy amount of money after his one true good year. Just like
Yeah,
that's why they're not going to extend Nico right now. We need to see it again. If he does it again, you give him the extension.
I think you pay Nico
So
now personally. I think Nico broke out last year, and he was just like it was injuries, I will say, but I think you give Nico the extension right now because I think he'll be a lot more expensive later. And real quick, by the way, Clowney, it completely slipped my mind. He went to the Seahawks and the Titans, each for a 1-year stint, and he was relatively irrelevant. And then he broke out again on the Browns. So I forgot. I don't know how I forgot his Seahawks tenure because that was big when he went there. But yeah,
so
I agree. I agree for the most part. I think Chase Young could be really good. I think with the Commanders, I just don't think he ever lived up to expectations. He was the franchise guy for a little bit, and then he went to the Niners, and even as a 1-2 punch, I feel like he didn't make a huge difference, but I feel like he could be really good with Will Anderson if Will Anderson lets off a lot of the pressure. Maybe he needs to get used to it. Mid-season, I'm going to give him some slack there, even though Nick Bosa is picking up most of that, most of the double teams and whatnot. I feel like going somewhere mid-season stuff. But yeah, I think it could be a big piece. I agree.
yeah. So according to Spot Rack, Jonathan Grenard is projected to be about 13.5 million. I've heard I was listening to another podcast where Aaron Wilson said that it's actually looking more towards the 20 range, which makes sense, honestly. I mean, if he was at 13.5 million, I have no reason to believe Casario wouldn't have made a deal already. I think he's wanting the more to the 18 to 20 million range. So here's my question to you, Mark: is at 4 years, call it 20 million a year with Grenard, because it could be more. Just remember that. Let's you know, he's probably going to be asking more, and this is a guy who you've only seen really one true great year from. So $80 million for 4 years, probably a $60 million guaranteed, or we can get Chase Young on a 1 year, $13 million, 13.5 million. And if he can prove himself, maybe we get him on another 1 year deal. Because I do think he's going to be a guy that's on 1 year, 2 year deals. What would you rather see?
That's a tough one because I'm not going to lie, I don't love either solution. I think both of them could definitely work out. And Casario is the type of dude to wheel and deal with prove it deals, as we see in the past, like little 1 year deals, which is why we have so many free agents right now. But I really do think we could end up regretting it if we let Grenard walk. I think I'd rather let him walk based on how much he costs. If we're talking about whether I'd want Grenard on a multi-year deal or Chase Young on a prove-it deal, I think I'd rather have Grenard, maybe with some sort of hometown discount. I do think Chase Young could end up working out really well if he came to us. But I feel like I've just seen more from Grenard, even though he's been injured. Like I think Chase Young has just kind of underwhelmed me every time. Even if my perception of him at the beginning of his career was really good, like I feel like he's just been underwhelming. Like I don't know if he's had a single dominant season. I think he's been consistent relatively. He was injured for a while. They have pretty similar career paths actually, but I think I'd rather have Grenard.
Right. And also, let me put this out there. I guess we can put this under an honorable mention. Jadeveon Clowney is also a free agent.
Yeah.
His market value is actually at $7 million. So, I mean, that's a guy who's 31 years old. He has experience. Let's not get age too much thought. Jadeveon Clowney he was 30 years old just a couple months ago with Baltimore wrecking havoc on offensive line. We saw what he did with us. I mean, he had a pretty good game. Our O-line actually held themselves pretty well against the Ravens. I think it's just our offense was just not there.
We'll see. I think it'd be interesting to have him back. I think I don't know, man. He was so brittle when he was with us. Like his frame, I feel like he perfectly mirrors Chase Young in that regard. And then he goes to the Browns and the Ravens and he stays really healthy. So I don't know if it's like his training regimen or diet or what he did overall, but could be a good pickup. I mean, I wouldn't hate it. Like I said, like whatever Caserio does, I'm historically a Caserio believer. Ever since he held Deshaun Watson and everyone said cut him, and he kept holding him and he kept holding him and he waited and waited and waited and it sucked. But he waited until Deshaun's value was at an absolute peak, like when all of the settlements occurred and all the teams started chasing. Like he waited until the bidding was at its absolute highest and then he sold him. And ever since then, also, I think he's just an expert scouter. Like I think he hits on a lot of late round picks. So I'm a Caserio believer personally. I feel like he's you're warming up to him as well. Overall, I feel like he didn't used to like him. I could be wrong.
Right.
But whatever he does, if he ends up getting Chase Young, I'm gonna say let's roll with it. Let's see how it goes. So we'll see.
Yeah. No, I agree. And then this is gonna bring me to my number one pick. I think this is the consensus between me and you.
Terrible choice.
Saquon Barkley is my number one pick. There is no reason. I will be furious if we walk out of free agency without one of the top three running backs, and that's Josh Jacobs, Saquon. I wouldn't be
Devin Singletary.
If we didn't get Derrick Henry. I like Derrick Henry. I think he's a beast, but he's also coming up to 30, or maybe he is 30, and he has a lot of miles. You know, this guy has led carries 4 years in his career. 4.
I would love to just take him away from the Titans, personally.
Yeah, and, you know, if the Titans are letting go of their star running back, they know something. And it could just be a change of scenery since
I think they're rebuilding. I don't think it's all about that. Like, yeah, he had like more of a down year. He's getting older, but I don't think it's because they think he's about to fall off a cliff or anything. I just think they're moving on. They have what's his name? Tyjae Spears.
Yeah,
Tyjae Spears.
Really
Spears. Yeah, he looked really good. So I think they're just moving on.
Yeah, so with Saquon, he had 962 yards on the ground. He had 280 in the air. The thing with Saquon, and I've heard a lot of people say that he's been pretty consistent when it comes to receiving yards. 2018, he had 721.
Receiving yards?
Yeah.
Wow. That was his rookie year, was it not?
Yeah, it was rookie year.
Okay, yeah.
And he had 1,307 rushing.
In 2018?
In 2018. So
I remember
he had 2,000 scrimmage yards in his rookie year.
Yeah, it was a story.
Then that number goes to 438 in his second year, and then it goes to 60 the year he got hurt. I'm going to just say this. For people saying that, he gets hurt too much. Guys, he got hurt 1 year. 1 year he was hurt.
I thought it was 2 years.
He tore his ACL. He had 2 2 games played in 2020, then 13, 16, and 14. That's it. That's a pretty reliable running back if you only miss
Yeah.
4
I
games,
think
3 games, 2 games. Nico Collins missed games this year. We're not gonna say, oh, he gets hurt. Like, no, like we Nico Collins got hurt. The
I
only
do
person
think though, I think that season where he had 13 games, I'm pretty sure it was another season-ending injury. And then like the next year he had like a high ankle sprain or something like that. That might have been this year. But I agree. That's a lot of games played.
It's still a lot of games played.
Mm-hmm.
It's still pretty consistent. I would say the 2020 was his last year of only playing 2 games or anything less than 10. He's never played any less than 10 other than that year. He's had 13 plus. That's pretty good. I mean, I'd say that's pretty healthy. And so he does kind of regress a little. Last year he had 1,312 yards on the ground on 295 attempts. This year he had 962 on 247. I think their O-line is god-awful.
I
think that's the problem. I don't think it's Saquon. So I think if he came here, he'd have a lot of success running the ball. And I'm not saying our O-line is great at run blocking either, but I think it's better than the Giants.
Yeah. How would you feel about Saquon being signed and us retaining Singletary for like a healthy deal?
I would like to see Singletary back. I'm not a fan of getting rid of him. But if we had Motor and Saquon, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think I'd rather see each of them really as part of a 1-2 punch instead of the lead back. Saquon, I'd be more open to being a lead back. Like if we got rid of Singletary and got Saquon, I'd be like, all right, yeah, I can see that. But I think both of them, like they're both definitely veterans. I think Singletary is going into his 6th year, 7th year, and Saquon, obviously he's been in the NFL for 6 years now. Like I'd like to see him as part of a 1-2 punch, but yeah, I think that'd be pretty great. And I don't think it'd be crazy expensive. Like how much do you think Saquon would be on a deal?
Probably 12 to 12 and a half.
Okay, over 2 years or what?
I'd say 2 years. Yeah, he's 27 years old. I don't see them signing him to a multi-year deal like that, like a 3-4 year. I don't see that. I
don't know what he wants either. Like he might be telling teams he wants a long-term deal or don't even bother, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, and by the way, today, whenever the news came out that he wasn't getting franchise tagged, the odds of him coming to Houston were minus 200.
I saw that they were minus 105.
Yeah, I saw on FanDuel, or on Bleacher Report, whichever one that was, it said minus 200 after the franchise tag news came out. And every sportsbook's different. Some sportsbooks have different odds. That's pretty.
I'm excited, dude. I do think he has a realistic chance of coming over here. So we'll see. And if we end up re-signing Singletary, the more the merrier. We just got to spend our money wisely. That's it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we need to, those are all things we can talk about later. But yeah, I think Saquon is a guy that we can all agree that we want him on the Houston Texans for sure.
Yeah. And we're going to end off. Nathan in particular wanted to talk about this headline, so I'm going to let him lead off with it. Go ahead, Nathan.
Yeah, so I was watching a podcast that I listened to, and they were talking about how Colin Cowherd said that he believes that the Houston Texans in the 2024 season, after all we did last year, we went from a team that wasn't even supposed to be in the run for the AFC Championship. We were last in those odds, let alone make the playoffs, second round of the playoffs. Colin Cowherd says that he doesn't think we're going to make the playoffs because we're still in a rebuild. Now, the reason he said that is because of our schedule.
What did CJ say? He said, okay.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So here's what I'll say about that. I do agree that our schedule is tough.
Yeah, let me pull it up real quick. It's a tough schedule.
We won our division, which means we're going to be playing division winners. That's why we're playing the Cowboys again this year, because we've never won the division the same year they won a division, by the way. I don't know if you knew that part. So that's why we're
the same year the Cowboys won a division?
Yeah, that's why we're playing them within 4 years, because it's every 4 years.
Okay.
So every 4 years we play the Dallas Cowboys. We played them the year before Stroud got drafted, and we're playing them again this year. And that's because we won our division last year and they won theirs. So here's our home opponents. We have the Baltimore Ravens, Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins, Chicago Bears, who might get Caleb Williams. I know you're not too high on Caleb Williams.
We'll see. Yeah. I think he's going to be great, but I don't think he's going to be like revolutionary. Yeah. We'll see.
Detroit Lions, Indianapolis Colts, obviously the Jags and the Titans. Our away opponents is Dallas, Green Bay, who beat Dallas. They whooped them. Minnesota, Kansas City, the Jets, Patriots, Colts, Jags, Titans. So
I feel like now I'm hearing it again. It doesn't sound as bad. It depends. Like, I don't know what the Jets are, so like it depends on certain games like that. But we'll do. By the way, we'll do our record predictions in a future episode. Like, we'll go game by game, and we need to wait until free agency and the draft, obviously, because we don't know. It's hard to tell what teams are. So for Colin Cowherd to say we're going to miss the playoffs, I don't really give that any. I don't give that any credence or anything like that. Like,
yeah, so he has the Colts winning the division and the Jags getting their wild card spot.
Wow.
I'm not going to sit here and call him or say he's wrong.
I'm gonna.
I don't want to say that like what he's saying isn't valid, because we do have a really tough schedule. And by the way, like, we beat tough teams this year, but we didn't play teams like we're playing this coming up year. But I also don't like that he said that, like you said earlier, prior to the draft or free agency. I just don't think that's fair. But that's his job, to get clicks.
Yeah, and I don't want us to be looked at anymore. Like, I know we've been in the dungeons of the NFL before this year for the last 3 years. But I think other teams should look at us on the schedule and think that's a scary game. Like, that could go either way. We can win on any given day. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, guys, that was our first episode. We got our free agents out of the way. We got, the breaking news of Dalton Schultz coming back to Houston on a great deal. I like it. Casario did well. And, we're excited to put out some more episodes for you guys. We just wanted to start kind of like a Texans community. We're Texans fans, obviously. That's why we started this channel.
We're not experts. We're just fans. Experts. Yeah, we're not gonna break any news that before Aaron Wilson or anything like that. Right. We just wanna create fun episodes with good talking points, good topics, and hopefully more content. Nathan and I talk on the phone all the time about the Texans, especially during the season, and we were looking for more outlets for content. We were like, why not just make one? Because we think we have something to contribute. So hopefully we have some fun episodes and some long running bits, and we'll get going here and make quite a few more episodes.
Yep. Totally agree. Guys, I hope y'all enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button if you want to. We would truly appreciate it.
Be our first.
Yeah. Leave a couple comments, and next time we should make one soon. We're going on vacation here in a couple days, but we'll try to put one out as soon as right around when free agency starts. We should have an episode out.
It's about to ramp up, so we don't have a set schedule or anything. We might develop one during the season, but things are probably about to get crazy. Like, we just broke the Dalton Schultz news. We have 30 more free agents, so there's going to be plenty to talk about. But yeah, you'll hear back from us pretty soon. So
yep. All right, guys. Appreciate y'all tuning in.